I'm bringing a text thread combo that Van and I were having to Woz about the NBA, about the phenomenon of a league that is having its games watched less, but feels like it matters more, and what's going on. And we all have theories on this. Is the NBA in better, worse, or the same shape?
I think it's a little bit worse than the peak of our recent peak of 2016, where Steph was like a global phenomenon, and like him and LeBron playing that epic 7-game finals. Like, I don't think we're anywhere close to that level of health in terms of the league, but they do have the most famous players in American sports. Again, the teams don't like people don't watch games as much as they might even watch the Jacksonville.
Take Mahomes, Kelsey, Lamar, and you would take 40
God,
NBA guys.
It's not like Lamar, who I love. That's my guy. Is
he as famous as Jaylen Brown?
I don't think
Lamar.
so.
No. He's not. Comparing football and basketball, fame is just like a ridiculous losing game for the football players.
Yeah,
like,
they're just not. Like they're recognizable people. So like they can get people to pay attention to them, whether that be for who they're dating or what clothes they're wearing, whatever. They got to find a way to monetize that attention. But I think once you're in a space where like you create celebrities, like even recently, like a Ja Morant, that's a good place to be. And they just got to get more creative about getting people to love the game.
It's interesting talking about the celebrity because I would argue that Austin Reeves is more famous in LA than Josh Herbert is.
100 million.
Considering he's Justin Herbert, you didn't even get his first name right.
Justin Herbert. I apologize. Actually, because can we do that again?
Keep that in, Kyle.
No,
keep that in.
Because they're gonna fuck over me. I would argue that Austin Reeves is more famous in LA than Justin Herbert is. Okay, but this is what I would say: those players still exist in the league, and they are the most famous guys, but they're less consequential in the league than they used to be.
Sure.
So they're not. It means something at the top of your league to have your most famous players also be your most important players. And I would argue that Steph, LeBron, KD, all of that older guard, they're not really serious, although you could argue this year with how the Warriors are playing, serious threats for the NBA throne.
Oh, don't tell the Laker fans that.
So they're
7-4. JJ's got this team going.
Why do you do this?
We beat Scottie Pippen Jr. last night.
You know why do you do this?
We beat Huff.
Bill, the vindictiveness towards the Lakers.
It's the Laker fans.
Hold on, Bill. We got it. And because we're on this, because I have to talk to you about this. Karl Towns over LeBron in the top 100.
I didn't do that. I had LeBron. I had LeBron 15.
Oh, okay.
I had Towns 25.
Oh, okay. I had
LeBron
Towns over LeBron.
No,
My bad.
I had Towns 25.
Don't you think you're too influential a voice to have this specific a bias?
I know.
Well, don't you think like single shot?
I just want to see the Lakers play Oklahoma City and some of the other good teams. They played Cleveland and lost by 100.
The
crowd was chanting for Bronny with 6 minutes left in the Cleveland game.
Beating Cleveland right now, though. Nobody's beating Cleveland.
Can we go back to you're talking about those three guys?
Sure.
This is what I said to Van on the text thread. These unicorn situations they had with 6 guys: Bird, Magic, Michael Jordan, then Kobe, then LeBron, then Curry.
Sure.
I don't know if we can replicate that with any under 30 American guy in that way. Even the Kobe thing, if Kobe goes to Charlotte instead of the Lakers, what happens to him?
The problem is that you're describing 40 years of the NBA, basically. Like when you're talking about those guys, you're basically going from 1979 all the way
I'm
up.
talking about our last 6 guys that broke through in a real way.
I know, but think about the sample size of those guys. That means that every single generation, they've been able to find a guy or two like that. And if this is the first generation why they can't, it's probably the scope of society and culture has changed and not the actual NBA. And so when you look at social media and the other things that, for example, you have Zion, you have Ja, right? Like, Ja is an incredibly likable player with an incredible fan-friendly style. 30 years ago, him with the blicky, like posting it also, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
Right? He would post it on the blicky. It's different. So maybe making stars is harder now because of the scrutiny.
I think it's harder because of the stars and the culture around our stars themselves. Like I was asking somebody who's now a huge F1 fan, about the Netflix show. I was like, do they get into anything on that show? Because I've never watched it. She was like, yeah. Like, they'll be like, that team is cheating. This owner's this person's an alcoholic, blah, blah, blah. Like, they've made the characters compelling as opposed to that damn NBA show on Netflix where Jason Tatum is like, I love my mom, I love hoop, and I love my son.
Yeah.
These are the things we learned about Jason Tatum, who's one of the 10, 8, 7 best players in the league. Like, they don't make themselves interesting. People don't care.
Well, they're afraid to be interesting because
I think that's a problem.
It makes them less marketable.
But I'll just bring up something, and we're podding. Have to talk about it. If we talked about Kobe and what Kobe was able to become, if Twitter's around when Kobe has the situation he has in Colorado, he doesn't survive it. I mean, his legacy, I'm telling you,
I think he survives it in LA.
He might survive it in LA, but in terms of things like that, and as murky or as whatever you want to say that they are, things like that used to happen to athletes. There used to be narratives about
We talk about room for error, for lack of a better phrase.
Things used to happen and they just wouldn't stick.
Yeah.
Like, we are retroactively punishing Karl Malone. You know, things used to happen and they didn't stick. So making stars was that, right, there was less margin for error. You could do it easier. Now, you got a gun, you got an adult star going at you for 3 weeks, harassing you on Twitter. All of that stuff, it sticks to you in a little way, and it changes people's perception. And we have to ask if all of that's like worth it. It can make you a star, but it can also take you off your perch.
I wonder how much of that stuff actually sticks to people like off of the internet. And I get it, more and more of our society are internet-based creatures, but I do wonder how often and how long that stuff sticks. Like, to me, what I'm talking about is like Draymond goes on his podcast and he's like, yo, Clay freaking ghosted Steph. Steph was going to say some nice words about him before the comeback game. And after the lack of or the conversation that he had with Clay, called PR and said, I'm not doing it anymore. Like, you telling me you put that in that Netflix show, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, but do you think that
people won't be interested in the story of the NBA? I think they would.
But being interested in the story of the NBA is starting to become, because you don't have to watch the games to, and this is a Tommy Alter.
I think you'd want to watch that.
Nah, you don't have to watch the games to be involved in that drama. You could follow that drama without watching the NBA.
This is what Derek Thompson, he came on my pod, I don't know how many months ago, and he was talking about how he's this new breed of NBA fan that loves the NBA but doesn't watch it that much, but loves everything around it and loves following it. My son's like that too.
Oh my God.
My son wasn't watching, Bucks Pistons last night, but he knows what happened with Giannis, that Giannis had 59 points. And, when I was a kid, I felt like anytime the NBA was on, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
The NBA is on the USA Network on Monday night. I'm watching. I can see the bullets.
Right.
I never get to see the bullets. Or like Sports Center in the 90s, you'd watch, you'd come home from drinking.
It felt special.
1:30 in the morning, it's like, oh, Craig Kilborn and Rich Eisen, they're going to tell me what happened in the NBA. I have no idea what happened. Karl Malone had a 30 and 25. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt special. Now it's so available, and not just the games, but like the players. I do wonder if that's a piece of it too. Like, all these guys have podcasts. There's no mystery with any of them. And then if you feel like you have mystery, you have something like the Netflix show where it's like, I'm not buying this version of you. I know there's more.
It's crap.
You know what I mean?
Is there anything, just to ask, is there anything about specifically the quality of the play that lends itself to any of this?
I've heard this. I think basketball is better now.
I
really do. I've been there the whole ride. I'm like amazed by the skills of guys.
I watched the Warriors and Mavs.
That game was
like
awesome.
130, and at no point was I like, this isn't interesting, competitive, compelling. Like, I don't know. I think people could fall in love with it how it is. I think the TV product is a problem, and I know this is like not a populist thing to say. I think they should ban League Pass or just like make it as extremely expensive as possible, like cost prohibitive.
Or just you only get to pay for 3 teams. You don't get all 30.
Or something like that.
I'm not understanding.
Make the product less
make
accessible.
It more special.
Make it more scarce. You know what I mean? Because I think there's got to be a way to make this thing feel less accessible. There's a game every single night, and like, what do you really miss if you missed the Heat game last night? What did you miss?
You didn't miss anything.
Yeah, but
the schedule's too long too. Is the other piece, and they're never going to change that.
But if you do that with League Pass, I've actually never heard that. It's really interesting. But if you do that with League Pass, doesn't that put the game back in sort of a regional space? Because right now, if like Charlotte will never, I want to watch LaMelo.
Yeah.
And Charlotte's never going to be on national if I don't have League Pass. And then that makes the game more regional.
You know, LaMelo's a Van type of player.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He puts up huge stats, fun highlights, and the wins and losses don't matter. That's Van's wheelhouse.
Bill full of shit. I like to watch players that are fun to watch.
Yeah. Fun to watch over winning is Van's
like
mantra.
A Westbrook thing?
He loves Westbrook.
No, I don't. But this is what I said. Bill wants to thrust this onto me.
Yeah.
Pause. But because of his Jokic thing, he's still holding on to that.
It's not just the Jokic thing.
What else? What other winning player don't I like?
I'm just saying.
Give me an example. I'm just saying,
that you love watching LaMelo.
I love watching LaMelo. He's fun to watch, and he's unpredictable.
Career winning percentage, 440.
He is unpredictable, and he's playing better this year.
No, he is playing better.
So what I'm saying is,
shout out to LaMelo.
You get into.
No, he's playing better. I've enjoyed watching him.
We get into a situation where the regionality of it and the sport starts to feel like baseball a little bit.
Sure.
But so I don't know. I think that's an interesting idea, and I've never heard it before.
But we didn't talk about one of the things we were talking about in the text thread is if your best players in your league are all foreign.
That's a problem.
What is the history of people connecting with foreign players in America? Because I loved Hakeem. Hakeem was amazing to see in person. He was fucking awesome. He was a badass. Like there's videos you'll see on Twitter just be like, Hakeem punches a guy. Like he was like a badass. Yeah. There's multiple videos of him just like turning around, just popping somebody.
He was the Draymond of his day.
He was like amazing to watch. He was an amazing defensive player. He was the best low post player of his generation. And people are like, Hakeem's boring. It's like, I don't, Giannis, Luka, Embiid.
I think Giannis's
Wemby
appeal
now
has been mismanaged by the league, by Nike,
what's this case? This is
I just think this whole the poor humble immigrant who was selling yogurts in Greece for $1 a pop. I just think that was just mismanaged. They should have leaned into the insane competitor, freakish athlete, whatever guy. The way he's been packaged to America as this cutesy immigrant story, I think was done a disservice to his actual star appeal. And Giannis is somebody who's actually embracing Americana in a way that Jokic and Luka just don't. They're just not interested in being American celebrities. They're just like, I want to hoop, win, go home, be a great teammate, move on with my life. But Giannis is interested in being a cultural figure. And I think that could have worked. I just think that they did it poorly.
I think Giannis is pretty compelling.
But I think the freaking foreign stuff does hurt the league. If Luka was from Indiana, bro, he would be
this is interesting.
Out of here.
We've talked about this before.
Well, I'm trying to think what would be the best
out of here
town or city for Luka to be in if his name was Luke Doncher.
Either Indiana or Kentucky.
Oregon, Kentucky, all of those places.
Kentucky would
where
be
white hoopers thrive. We need
be like, did you see what Luke did last night?
Yeah, seriously. And he would have been a phenomenon in the state of Kentucky. He would have went to UK. He would have been this
basically what I have with Drake May,
story.
North Carolina superstar Drake May.
Yeah, or Cooper Flagg, your new obsession. All these obsessions have something in common. So look, this is the thing. This is a boxing problem. We're big boxing fans.
Yeah.
So boxing has insanely good stars right now. I'm talking about good in their skill. Terrence Crawford.
Yeah.
Alexander Usyk. Tyson Fury, even though he lost to Usyk. Inoue, all of these different guys, right? People care for reasons that really, as fucked up as this is, they care for reasons other than how good you are.
Yeah.
Stories make people care.
100%.
UFC's like this too.
Skills make champions. Stories make stars.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to relate to a story. Now, some of these foreign guys, they have stories that are just as interesting as anyone. Really more interesting. I left war-torn, whatever. If you ever
Jokic's story is really interesting.
Right. Francis Ngannou, Jesus, like all of that stuff. The problem is it accessible to audiences? Even in boxing, when they don't speak English or when they can't really get over to American audiences, sometimes you have problems making stars with them. The only difference there is that for somebody like a Canelo Alvarez, his country backs him to such a degree that you can still make a worldwide star.
Yeah.
What I wonder about the NBA, you're going to have to have some dude from LA. You're going to have some guy from Ohio. Cooper Flagg, as much as we joke about it, Chet Holmgren, as much as we joke, those guys are important to the league.
It could be
100%.
AJ could be the guy.
100%.
This is the first. If AJ lands on the right team, AJ DeBanza, a year from now, he might be the guy. Because I feel like it has to be a wing. Wemby has two problems. Centers have never resonated with people. But we talked about that with the Nike contract. It's like nobody has ever been like, oh, I got. And like when I was a kid in the late 70s, we weren't like, oh, I got to get Kareem's shoe. Or like, oh, I got to get Ewing.
Could you imagine? Yeah.
Shaq was a huge star.
Shaq was
but
definitely
Shaq from a shoe standpoint.
No, it wasn't the thing.
And also, like, I was there for Shaq. Shaq was pretty polarizing for the 90s.
How do you mean?
He's just like, people were like, like, why are you making so many movies? Why aren't you in shape all the time? Why'd you leave Orlando after 4 years?
Well, we're talking video game, movie, rap.
No, I get it. But people felt in the moment, and they weren't right, but people felt in the moment like, why does he care about all this other stuff? Why isn't he just trying to win titles? And then he had the MVP season and it flipped.
And I've said this before. I think another thing, if we were doing the foreign players thing right, we would be doing it like boxing with the xenophobic, nationalistic sort of spin that we do with every fight. Like, I do remember when Floyd came out to fight Oscar De La Hoya in a sombrero. Like, I'm not saying we should do that in the NBA.
Racist,
I'm not saying we should do that in the NBA.
But think about Floyd, though. But think about...
But I'm saying...
But think about Floyd, though. Floyd just went total heel.
Yes.
So, total heel.
And today's NBA players aren't.
So do we need heels in the NBA?
You
Maybe that's a piece of it.
definitely need heels in the NBA.
That's Jimmy Butler. It's sitting there for him right now.
But
Team's
he's also
not that
35
good.
now.
Draymond tried to do it, and it just made people mad.
He's a great heel.
He
is the best heel.
He's a good heel.
He's at this point now with because I really like watching the Warriors this year, where he had his arm flailed and almost hit this guy in OKC or whatever the team the other day. It's like, no, Draymond. No, don't ruin this. No,
it's the best.
Please.
It's the best.
But do you think Wemby could be the biggest star in the league as a 7'5" French guy?
I've never seen a player that the NBA fans that I know, the diehard NBA fans, had more invested in him being good. Like there have been guys that have come into the league that it's like, hey, I like him. Hey, I don't like him. If you talk, Jacoby is fucking brave. Because if you talk shit on Wemby, you get 50 different people telling you that Wemby is basketball Jesus and there's nothing to it. I think if Wemby lives up to the hype, he's a global superstar. People just love Victor
they
Wemby.
Love him. I made the same mistake because I don't know if you guys remember the Adrian report where it was like people are saying he's the best prospect of any sport ever. So I had this bit on the show where I was like, oh, he's the best prospect since Satchel Paige and Ty Cobb. Like I would come up with some old whatever every time. And like, cause I was like kind of a little bit doubting it at first. And my goodness, man, like whatever, Twitter is just what it is. But in person, people be like, I heard you said about Wemby. You're crazy. You're wrong. Blah, blah, blah. Like, you're right about the Wemby investment. So, like, I do think he has major potential. I think Wemby's broken through, honestly, in terms of culture. Like, even when Britney Spears got beat up by his bodyguards at Summer League for trying to talk to him that one time.
Damn, was?
But no, I'm just saying, you don't remember Britney Spears wanted his picture.
I know, but you throwing so much gas on that. Britney Spears got beat up by his bodyguards.
That's how she represented it on the internet anyway. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. But I think Wemby's definitely up there.
One thing that he has, and I think Edwards has too, and I've seen this happen over the years, is when we really want it to happen for somebody, because you really felt this when Jordan retired and there was that whole, it was like we were auditioning the next star.
Oh my God.
It was like, would
you
like to have Grant Hill, maybe?
Kobe.
How about this T-Mac character?
T-Mac, Vince Carter.
And then Kobe, I feel like starting the 2000 finals kind of grabbed it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Vince, all of a sudden, that one year when he went head-to-head against Iverson, was like, oh, could he grab it? Iverson, even though I think he had like his base, but I still feel like it would have been really hard in 2001 for him to become the guy.
But the thing with Iverson is a good example.
He was like a belated, after the fact, people appreciated him more.
Iverson is a good example of what we're talking about, right? In a time when the NBA was looking for the next Jordan, Iverson was able to carve out his own superstar aura by being completely antithetical to Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Right? He was able to be. And now what we have, I'm sorry, bro. These dudes ain't got no personality, bro.
That's 100%
like,
true.
I mean, they are.
Edwards does.
Edwards has personality.
Edwards is our big hope.
He's great. But the older guys do. Steph has personality. LeBron has personality. The way we judge people and the conversations that we have around people and the way that we excoriate them for every little, the food getting a little bland.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a superstar, you gotta be spicy. There's gotta be some spice to it.
Yeah, and I remember David Stern's dress code thing that everybody said was like mega racist and blah, 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 right? And, it was just the idea that like a lot of these guys from the streets or whatever we're called, inner city, whatever euphemism we want to use, were less polished, less media trained, right? Our league is now way more suburban. These kids come from way more affluent backgrounds. They're way more media trained, focus group, consultant freaking to death. And as Van says, it's not as fun. It's just not. Like, I love Devin Booker. I love watching him hoop. He's famous enough to date Kendall freaking Jenner. Nobody knows anything about him. Nothing. Nobody knows you can't. A lot of people don't even know what this guy's voice sounds like.
But then the flip side of everybody's like, hey, KD. Can you stop being so out there?
KD,
can you get offline?
Keep doing it.
I like that.
Keep doing it.
I like it too.
We need more of that.
I think KD is interesting, and I think the fact that he has embraced the fact.
Yes.
I like it. I like it.
I think he's one of the most authentic superstars we've had in any sport this century.
100%.
Like almost to his own detriment a lot of the time.
Like, could you imagine Donovan Mitchell? He's another one of these guys who's like perfect. Like, great suburban upbringing, says the right thing, beautifully eloquent when he speaks, like he's so polished. Could you imagine him ever saying anything as interesting as KD does on a freaking daily basis? No. And I don't think that's a good thing.
Now, while we say this, once again, I want to come back to the climate, right? Because this part of this is because if you're James Harden and you like to go out to the strip club a little bit, that becomes your whole identity. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying,
earned that. He's earned it.
Once again, I like him. Once again, I like him. But all I'm saying is, look, the NBA is not boring. It's so much fun to watch. All these storylines are so much fun. But loosen up a little bit. Have fun. Play basketball. But everyone, not just the players, the fans too. I don't need 12 Saints that never did anything wrong or never said anything wrong playing basketball. Your favorite players from back in the day, I'm sorry, these guys were intensely flawed.
Yeah.
The GOAT is a legendary asshole.
Yeah.
One of the other guys is a legendary whore. And one of the other guys, if you said the wrong thing to him, he'll throw your ass through a plate glass window. So these are people that play basketball. The people part makes the superstar. And so I think that turning them into robots only makes the league a little bit more.
Larry Bird, bar fight during the 1985 playoffs, hurt his hand.
Yeah.
Shooting went south. One of the reasons we lost the title. I was like, what if that happened now?
Yeah. That would
like,
be a
Anthony
problem.
Edwards got in a bar fight and now Minnesota's out of the
what
playoffs.
I would say too is like Adam, God bless him, for all of his shortcomings, in my opinion.
I can't wait for this take.
He went out and got these guys the bag. Is 10 years.
I thought you were going another direction.
No, he went out and did that. And you did a great job. Bravo, Adam. Now your next freaking job is to get people to care more about what's happening on the floor in your freaking league. Like,
so it's not,
and I get it. He was putting
the
all
NBA
his
Cup
energies.
courts.
No, it's not.
So, there's a green one.
Cup courts. I think Adam has amazing business sense. He's smart enough to get the Emirates involved in naming rights. And like, he is incredible at getting the corporate partners to buy into what they're doing. Now he's got to be better at the basketball part and getting people to care more.
the number one thing to me that tells me that that's not going to happen is the schedule, which I've talked about a million times in this podcast. The fact that it's 82 games and not 70 or 72 even. Like that they don't care. They have too much of their product.
The inventory.
They love the inventory and it's too much. And
it's way too much.
It's just night after night. There's 8 games, 9 games, 10 games. None of them. You never know what's special, what's not special.
It's been 82 forever. At what point did it become that you would have thought, what was the point to where you felt like they needed to scale back?
Late 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
also think, I talked about this Tuesday, I think the sport's much harder to play, and it's a big reason why these guys are getting injured.
I got religion
too
on
hard.
It in 2014 when everybody was praising Popovich for not playing. They were playing the Heat too. It was the Spurs, and he sat like 3 of the starters.
Everybody.
Yeah. And everybody
ruined the Saturday game.
Yes. And everybody was like, the NBA media consensus was like, Pop is such a genius and blah, blah, blah. And I got to give it to our guy Amin. He was like, it's cool when the Spurs do it, but when everybody's doing it, it's not going to be good. And our partners pay us for these games. This is how we make the bulk of our money.
But the thing is, they just paid them more money for the games.
Yeah.
Like they ponied up again.
They got blessed with the media environment where these live rights are so impactful. But like, that's when I got religion on it, when everybody was like, yo, Pop is a genius for this. And I'm just like, well, if teams need to load manage their stars, then that means we need less games. Like, that's just the
Think
obvious.
how good the 72 would be right now with like Philly's situation, where it's like, holy shit, they're 2-9 in a 72 game season. Like this is dangerous now. They can't fuck around. They could be like
not
number
with
10
82.
playing team.
They'll be fine. They'll finish in the top 3 of the East.
I've asked so many people, and there's some people in the league who've really pushed for it. Like Steve Kerr is like a massive advocate for it, and he's like written letters and all this stuff. And there's no answer other than, we don't want to give up the money. That's it.
And the thing is,
it's 100% money.
Mind you, these are the masters of the universe. This is what we're told. These are the smartest business people in the history of planet Earth. And like, you get this massive increase in revenue with your new TV deal. You would think that it's like, all right, with this windfall, we can make the product better. It might like hurt us in the short run in terms of our inventory, but we're gonna find a way to make these games feel more interesting, special, and better monetize the decrease in inventory. But instead, they're just like, no, we're gonna bash them over the head with 82 from now till eternity.
Well, I mean, the conversation now around the league in terms of the quality of the games, the viewership, might spawn something, but there's been no reason to, right?
Yeah.
The league has been incredibly popular.
Yeah.
The NBA was like, the NBA helped normalize the American society in the bubble after. Like, they should have won some kind of social award. This is dumb. I've said this to you before, bruh. I literally was driving around LA like a zombie during the pandemic. And then I heard on the radio, people were like, I've heard that there are rumblings of the NBA getting everybody back together in one city and playing all the games. And I was hope
brings eternal.
I was like, oh my God, if I could just watch some NBA basketball.
You know what's crazy about that? I was thinking about that the other day because it feels like it happened 130 years ago. Yeah. And it was 4
years ago.
4 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were putting cardboard cutouts of fans in the stands. Not only did we not have fans in the stands, we were pretending to have fans in the stands.
Virtual fans.
Like that Stallone Cobra thing behind Van's shoulder there. And it was like totally normal. That's how desperate we were for basketball.
Super desperate.